You better make sure and get your can of Raid because here comes those Yellow Jackets. What's going on, Tar Heel Nation? My name is Nathan. I am one half of your Heel Brothers, and I know this thing completely looks different than normal. Probably sounds a whole lot different than normal as well. Unfortunately, it seems like my internet has crashed out on me and is not currently working. I don't know what's happening over here. It's getting a little weird. But while I'm taking the time to fix that and make sure that we can do our watch party for this game, you guys are getting this thing straight off of the phone. It's like my old YouTube days back when I was like 12, 13, doing just a little point and shoot camera and talk about something, man. So this is going to be fun, but it's not going to stop us from covering this game, from previewing and predicting this game right here as the 4-2 Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets come down to Kenan Stadium to face our 3-3 Tar Heels this Saturday at 12 p.m. on the CW network. This is the Champions Network over here, the CW boy. I didn't even know the CW was actually even still a thing until the ACC went to it. Was it last year? So this is going to be, I am honored to see us on the CW. But Georgia Tech comes in as a 6-point favorite in this game. They currently have a 56.2% chance per ESPN predictor to win this game. And Georgia Tech does lead North Carolina in the all-time series with 33 wins to 3 ties. And Carolina has 22 wins. And currently, Georgia Tech is on a 3-game winning streak against Carolina that started back in 2021 when Sam Howell and the team went down and they played in the Mercedes-Benz Dome or whatever they got that thing, Superdome or whatever they got that thing called down there now in Atlanta. The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets are led by head coach Brent Key. He is in his second full season. He is currently 15-12 overall as a head coach for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. He took over the team for Jeff Collins in 2022, where they got a couple of wins, one of them being against the 9-1 North Carolina Tar Heels in Kenan Stadium. I was in that game. Me and Alan was both at that game, and not a fun night for Carolina and sent us in a tailspin for the rest of the year. He did play at Georgia Tech on the offensive line, and he also coached under Nick Saban as the offensive line coach at Alabama from 2016 to 2018. Georgia Tech in the offseason returned 4 of their starters on the offensive line, which in 2022, when he took over for Jeff Collins, was one of the worst in the ACC, and then last year was the best offensive efficiency offensive line and offense in the ACC. Flipped overnight with Brent Key coming in. They did lose 32 players to the portal, but they did add 14 as well. And they're currently ranked 7th in offensive efficiency, just behind North Carolina, and they've only given up 1 sack on the year. This is a pretty good offensive line. It's going to be your best offensive line that you faced all season. Coming in from Georgia Tech, Brink Key has been the key, per Rec Talk, for bringing in a great offensive line, and he's done a really good job of it. They play with continuity. They're keeping their guys on the offensive line. They're keeping your senior guys there, and it's showing up big time, especially when you're blocking for a guy like Haynes King. And that leads us to our Georgia Tech stat leaders. Passing is Haynes King. He has completed 125 of his 169 passes for 1,441 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He is a 6'3", 215 dual threat quarterback who I personally like. Last year he had some turnover issues, but this year has really cleaned that up a lot, and he is playing some great ball down there at Georgia Tech. Their rushing leader is Jamal Haynes, 77 carries for 366 yards, 5 touchdowns, averaging 4.8 yards per carry. He is 5'9" and 190 pounds. This is a guy that's also been a little bit banged up per Rec Talk in the scouting report, but he's looking to be back full go, I believe, this week. And it's going to be interesting to see how Carolina's able to deal with him. This is a speedy back. This guy is very similar to what we saw last week with Desmond Reed in the Pittsburgh game, and that bodes not very well for North Carolina in the least. But the receiving leader, Malik Rutherford, this guy is fast. He's all over the field, And he is just the tip top of their wide receiver core. What is has a lot of depth in that room as well. But he has 37 receptions with 474 yards, 2 touchdowns, averaging 12.8 yards a catch. 5'9" 170 pounds. It doesn't seem real. Quite frankly, see that and you're thinking, man, he should be easy to cover. He's relatively small, but no, this he's a speedster. He can get out and get open, and he can catch a football anywhere, man. Doesn't matter who's draped all over him. He's going to catch that football. He's a good kid, and he did not do Carolina any favors last year down there in Georgia Tech. In their last game, Georgia Tech did get a win over the Duke Blue Devils at home, a 24-14. In that game, they gained 412 yards of total offense and actually held Duke to 279 yards of total offense. Per reference, since North Carolina had just played them the week before, Carolina gave up 394 yards of offense to Duke in the game and gave up just below 300, I think it was like 297 in the second half to Duke. It was an ugly game in the second half, but Georgia Tech has shown that they can stop an offense, and they got a good defense over there. They got a really good defense, in my opinion. North Carolina in their last game lost 24-34 to the Pittsburgh Panthers. The first one ever given up at home to the Pittsburgh Panthers. In that game, they gave up 520 yards of total offense to a Eli Holstein-led offense that has been really good, and they just picked apart North Carolina. In that game, Criswell went 24 of 45, getting 269 yards and a touchdown in that game. Nate McCullum ended up having his best game with 10 receptions for 128 yards. And we finally got to see the return of Kamen Rucker, who was a guy that we've been missing since the Minnesota game. Key piece in our defense. Didn't get to see him a whole lot, but considering the injury, they didn't want to rush him back too fast, which is understandable because you're going to need him for the rest of the year in ACC play. In the stats department for North Carolina, Carolina leads with Criswell as our passing leader. He's completed 88 of his 156 passes for 1,158 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. He is a 6'1", 230-pound quarterback. Marion Hampton leads us with 137 carries on the year for 764 yards. This guy's having a great season. 7 touchdowns and averaging 5.6 yards per carry. He is a 6', 220-pound back. J.J. Jones is your leading receiver with 18 receptions on 300 yards and 1 touchdown. He's a 6'2", 210-pound wide receiver. That is the tale of the tape. But let's talk about it and break it down far past the stats. Let's talk about it just giving it the eye test. Georgia Tech as a football team, that's a pretty good daggum football team. They're not as good as they were in certain areas last year. That's for sure. But I'll say this. This is a team that can get out and get after anybody. They kind of struggled a little bit after the Georgia Tech game. I know they lost the Syracuse game, and I completely forgot who the other team that they faced that they lost this year. But all in all, Georgia Tech's been able to handle business. They are in a rebuilding process right now, 4-2 under Brent Key. Brent Key's doing a really good job in recruiting and bringing in talent. So this Georgia Tech team's only going to continue to get better. Haynes King has been a godsend for them. He has been an amazing quarterback for them. A guy that is mobile, that can shoot the deep ball downfield, and he can get after it. When the play breaks down, he can get loose. And they've also got some really good dynamic playmakers. Like I was talking about, that Jamal Haynes as your running back. Malik Rutherford out there, just one of your receivers. You got a tight end. A really good tight end over there. And I forget, I can't remember how to pronounce his name. But a few different receivers that are really good out there. They've got some young talent. It's going to be hectic for North Carolina. Not only that, they're coming into this game playing with edge. And Rec Talk, I believe that he kind of he let you in on what it's like as a Georgia Tech fan, and I'm sure what's happening in that Georgia Tech building. Brent Key does not care for Jeff Collins after what happened down there in Georgia Tech a couple of years ago. Again, I asked the questions in that scouting report. And again, if you haven't watched it, be sure go down in the description. It will be there. Be sure and go watch it. It's a great time with him, and I feel like we had some good information come out. But Brink Key doesn't care for Jeff Collins. I didn't know what happened, and he expounded on it a little bit more. If you are unsure of what happened down there at Georgia Tech under Jeff Collins, and this team, they want to get back, and this fan base, they want to get back at Jeff Collins, and they know they got a chance now. Now that they're coming into Keenan. Now they know Jeff Collins is the defensive coordinator for the North Carolina Tar Heels. Not only has Georgia Tech always wanted to beat North Carolina consistently, it seems to be something they love to do, that's for sure, but also they've got a little bit of juice, extra juice coming in. They've got 3 years straight that Carolina has not been able to answer at any point in time. You thought it was going to happen last year. When you give up 200 and some odd yards of offense in the fourth quarter. 2 years ago, you're up 17-0. You don't expect to lose that game. You lay down thinking Georgia Tech, oh, they're a dumpster fire. Brent Key just took over. Ain't no way they're going to do it, even though they were coming off of a couple of wins. Boom, they beat you. They ended up beating you there. A lot of Carolina, and then 3 years ago, they get bum rushed by Georgia Tech in Atlanta. So Atlanta and Georgia Tech have had a one heck of an effect on the North Carolina Tar Heels, and right now they got the Tar Heels number, man. Nate McCullum talked about it when he came over, former wide receiver for Georgia Tech under Jeff Collins. He said, just Georgia Tech's had our number, and it just had the number, man. They just don't know what it was. They just found a way to win every time, and they can peel it out. They're not afraid of you, and they'll unlock the playbook on you. That's for sure, and they don't care because they're going to come at you and they're going to hit you hard, and they know that our players are tougher than yours. Georgia Tech being tougher than North Carolina, I'm saying there. So North Carolina's going to have their hands full. This is going to be a game that Carolina is going to have to show up in the physical department. It's going to be very similar to last week, in my opinion, but could be high scoring. We'll see, but it kind of depends on this offense. Jacoby Criswell has been having a hard time hitting deep shots. All insiders say that this week of practice was his best. We will see. That is for sure, because you can have a great week of practice, but does it translate over to the game? Also, where is this team at? Where is North Carolina at? As a team, as a football program, where the fans are, go look at the highlights of the North Carolina Pitt game, and especially when you get into the second half. Tie ball game, 24-24 going into halftime. That stadium's half empty. It's ridiculous. The North Carolina fan base, AJ from Tar Heel Illustrated said it best in their football show. Apathy is starting to set in, and it is showing up as a fan base. It's starting to set in, and Carolina fans we don't care anymore. I care personally, but the average North Carolina Tar Heel football fan doesn't care anymore. You can't blame them either, especially considering how the last couple of years are gone. And Jacob Turner made a good point in his description of what was going on, that Carolina, the downfall is slowly creeping earlier into the year. It happened at 9-1. It happened at 6-0. You're 3-0, and now you've lost 3 straight, and you don't know where this thing's going to head. And all systems say this thing ain't heading in the right direction. That's for sure. So what is Carolina going to do? Are they going to bite back? Are they finally going to say, okay, it's time? It's time to get after it. We're sick of losing. And we're gonna completely change the complete narrative here, and we're gonna play tougher on defense. We're gonna make sure that we're communicating on defense, hitting the assignments that we have to hit, making sure we're not giving up big explosive plays down there. Offensively, we're gonna be aggressive. Not playing. They've been playing not to lose, but not playing to win. Are they gonna switch that this week and say, what 3-3, need to beat somebody? Let's go. Are they gonna stand up and play for the logo on their helmet, the name on their chest? Are they going to do that? I'm curious to see. North Carolina, in my opinion, is the trajectories of the two teams are, or the trajectories, I guess I should say, of the two teams are completely different. They're completely opposite. And if Carolina's not careful, this thing can slip away from them very fast. And currently it is. And if they lose this game, and this is a good team, like you got to go beat a good team here. I'm not just saying, oh, you just go out there and win the game. No, 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 no. This is going to be a tough team, but they need to go out here and win this game. Now, am I predicting them to do that? Actually, I'm not. I'm actually going to say that Georgia Tech, I'm going to pick a little bit, I'm going to pick a closer game, but I'm going to say 28-21. Georgia Tech gets the win over the North Carolina Tar Heels. And the reason I say that personally is because North Carolina is in a position that it hasn't been in quite some time now. You had the one bad year under Mac 6-7 in 2021, the year that the losing streak started against Georgia Tech, as a matter of fact. But this program, in my opinion, I believe we're seeing the beginning of the end of the Mac Brown. I've said it a few times myself. Now, could they rattle off 9 straight, rattle off 6 straight and finish 9-3? Yeah, they could, absolutely. I wouldn't put money on that. I wouldn't pick that if you're asking me to bet. That's for sure. But Carolina's got a tough opponent here, and what worries me is the attitude in the building. Mac Brown said it in his press conference. With every game that we got left, which, let me grab my schedule. I'll tell you guys. Every game you got left, Georgia Tech, Virginia, at Florida State, Wake Forest at home, at Boston College, NC State at home. He says, oh, you can win every game, but you could also lose every game. That's not the message I'm trying to sell to my players. Hey, you could win them, you could lose them. We'll find out. We'll get there. We'll see how it goes. We're going to try not to lose. That I don't like that one bit. That message that, just seeks through not only the locker room, but the fan base is not what you want to hear. And I believe that Brent Key and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, he's got that team in a completely different mindset of, hey, let's go out there and beat the hell out of somebody every week. Let's go win this ball game. This is what we do. We're Georgia Tech. And I like that. I like that message. I wish North Carolina would adapt that message, quite frankly. So I hope it's going to be a good back and forth game. If it's going to be a blowout, I believe it's going to be a blowout in the favor of Georgia Tech, quite frankly. I got still too many questions on offense. Chip Lindsey's play calling being one of them, and defense. I don't know if I can count on them at all. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I know this has been a little bit awkward, a little bit different than we've had in quite some time, but hopefully it's just a one-time thing. We'll have our post-game press conference hopefully back. Watch party is still on unless told otherwise, so be sure and come back here for the watch party. Going to be going live about 11:45 all the way throughout the game, and I'll give you live reaction and thoughts right after. Let me know what you guys think about the game down below. Put your score predictions, comments down there, and I appreciate you all for being here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here, and as always, go Heels.